Buddy, this is Tom, and I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes just about um, getting ready for next year and kind of transitioning things that you can do now in June to help make the transition as smooth as possible for your students as you go into September. Okay, so here are a couple things that you can do. Okay, one thing you can do is do a visit. Do a visit down to the grade level below you. Okay, talk to that teacher about what time they're teaching reading or writing, and maybe go in like later on in the period. So if like they have a 40-minute period for readers workshop, go in like 25 or 30 minutes into it when the students have been reading for a long time or writing for a long time. Okay, and then kind of go in and do like this public statement of like, wow, Mrs. So and so, how long have your students been reading? And then the teacher will say, oh, 25 minutes. Wow, that is a very long time. And like publicly compliment them on how long they've been working. Okay? Because what's going to happen is next year when they come to you and their stamina is lower, and understandably so if they weren't working all summer, then you can say to them, well, I saw you last year. You were reading for a really long time, or you were writing for a really long time. I know you can do it. Okay, it's a way to gently up the ante and raise your expectations by reminding them that they already know how to do this and they can do it. Okay, so do a visit like that. Kind of comment on the stamina, comment on the volume of their writing if it's writing workshop, compliment them on the talk that they're having, right? That they're able to engage in metacognitive talk or whatever, right? Stuff that they're going to struggle with in September. Compliment them on that in June, okay? Because then you can remind them of that in September, so that it'll make them kind of more likely to remember that they once did that. Okay. Another thing that you can do, and you would want to talk to your colleagues in your school about this, is pass along notebooks. Okay, so if you are in a notebook grade, okay, if you're in a notebook grade, whether that's reading or writing, you might want to just pass those along, kind of collect them. If you think your kids are not going to write over the summer or use their readers' notebooks over the summer, which some of them won't, okay, collect them and pass them on to next year's teacher. And then if you are a teacher that gets notebooks from the grade below you, then you can sort of look at them before school starts, but you can also give them back and be like, hey, remember this? Why don't you, on the first days of school, kind of like look back and remember the writing that you did last year, right? And then kind of talk to them about how they wrote much shorter when they were younger, or some of the things they were thinking and reading were maybe not as complex as they were later in the year, right? Get them to recognize just how much they've grown, right? It also kind of gives them the message of like, we're not compartmentalizing our school lives into grade levels. We're kind of like always learning, and we're adding on to what we learned last year. Okay, so that's such a powerful message, that you can pass on by doing that, and it's another way of upping the expectation, um, in a gentle, positive way. Okay, and also Catherine Bomer tells us that we don't want to just think in terms of expectation. That's like, you need to do this, but expectancy, but which means I believe you can do this because I've seen you do it, because I know you have it in you. Okay. All right. And then let's see. One last thing. And this is not so much for your students, but for you. So it's June. So your students probably have lots of pieces of published writing that they've done. So what you can do is make copies of student work. Make copies of published writing, of notebook entries, of things from their readers' notebooks. Take pictures, do anything you can, because those can become teaching tools for next year and for many years to come. You don't have to just pick the kids that are doing exemplary work. You can pick kids that are doing sort of medium work or even not that strong work, because you can use those as demonstration tools in the future, right? Of course, you would never ever say to them, "Oh, here's a really bad piece of writing that I'm going to revise." No, you would kind of say, "Here's a piece of writing that I'm working on, and let's think of how we can grow it. Okay, so these are three short, simple tips that I'd like to offer you in June to make your September and many Septembers in the future smoother. Okay, why don't you try that out, and I'll see you next time.